You're watching the Chaos Protocol on Transplanar RPG, an all-transgender, people-of-color-led dark fantasy TTRPG show set in an original non-colonial, anti-Orientalist multiverse. If you like what you see, please consider pledging to our Patreon to support the show and get access to a patron-only after-show, early podcast episodes, GM notes, character sheets, and even the chance for your tabletop OC to cameo in our series. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy. The Chaos Protocol is a dark fantasy series that may contain content that is triggering for some viewers. Content warnings for this episode may include complex and complicated relationships, death of loved ones and family, depression, grief, trauma, fantasy violence, storms, explosions, and references to the death of children, sexual encounters, and hunting. Arc 2, Episode 4, Your Hollow Slaughter. From Carved Inside an Empty Urn by Connie Chung. So in particular, I'd just like to highlight again, the complex and complicated relationships warning is going to be particularly prominent in the second half. As a reminder, we are all playing flawed characters by choice, by intention, and this story is rife with conflict, and our PCs are not all just wholesome blorbos who could do no wrong and are just good all the time. This back half in particular is going to challenge them a lot. And by being perhaps overprotective or very quick to jump to assumptions in chat, you might be losing out on, and in some ways, depending on how you engage with it, even disrespecting parts of the story that are very important, very close and important and intentional and chosen by us as performers. So please, the ask here is just to be reflexive and just to be thoughtful before making like really quick accusatory statements about any NPCs being too mean or like not supportive enough or anything like that in chat. Because those statements can also, a lot of the time, be rooted in misogyny, racism, or other internal biases that just come out in how we interact with media. This is Connie's critical race theory brain, marrying my screenwriting brain coming out to tell you all about that. So thank you for being cool, Transplaners. So in the Twitch chat, you can use !CW at any time to get a look at our content warnings. And if you're in TikTok, you can learn more about this show by going to the link in my bio at any point. It has links to everything, recap document, what the heck this is, link in my bio, that's where you gotta go. So with that out of the way, we're gonna hop right back into the back half of Arc 2, Episodes 3 and 4. Xainan, where do we find you 30 minutes after your fateful summons?
I think Xainan started walking through the Syndicate, feeling his body and actually walking instead of existing, floating, none of those, all of them. And I think he walks past one of the large mess halls, just walking through familiar paths like a ghost haunting trans.
You're almost to the end of a corridor that is parallel to a large mess hall when you hear footsteps running out of the canteen and a familiar voice ringing down the corridor, greeting your ears. Xainan fucking Esh!
Xainan stops in his tracks, for the first time really feeling the momentum of his body halting. And he can feel every muscle on his back tense. He wasn't expecting this, but he definitely should have. And he can feel both, why is this happening? Is he actually here? And oh, fuck. He slowly, sheepishly turns around.
And your eyes fall on Naeem Zaran at the other end of this hallway, though rapidly approaching with every step. They are a person with dark skin, these round, gold-rimmed glasses, and a single obsidian horn protruding from his forehead like a unicorn might. He is broad-shouldered and strong, but also bookish and academic, and wears these flowing, elegant robes and these bright, piercing, hazel eyes. And with every clipped step, every inch of space that shortens between the two of you, Naeem says, Xainan, you You don't get to abandon the people who care about you as some fucked up defense mechanism just because you're grieving and in pain, because guess what? So are they, and they need you, and you weren't even processing. Okay. You're not even processing, are you?
I'm processing just fine. You don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. Don't tell me what I do and don't know, Xainan. I've seen this 1,000 times with you before. This always happens. Something bad occurs, you fold back into yourself, and you leave us. You leave me. You leave them. You leave everyone who needs you.
Oh, you care now when I walk away. Because the last I checked, you sent me.
Unlike some people, I have always cared. And I always reach out. I sent the letter that you didn't read. For how long? Weeks? I was the one that asked you to take care of Lumira. Too late, Xainan. That's how it is with you. Always, constantly, too late, trying to do the right thing, but at the last minute, clawing yourself back into this grave.
Xainan feels the words come to his mouth that he always says in this moment when they have this fight in various shades, but for the first time, he doesn't say, I'm trying. He grits his teeth. There's a roiling storm behind his eyes. Ash and flame and dust all glare back at the person that he wanted to fall into their arms. But also he wants so badly to just have it out right here. Sutra paper and guns, let's go. Naeem. The Wild Sea was different, I told you. I asked for your help because I was scared, and I was right. I was right.
I'm not mad at you because you were scared, Xainan. I'm mad at you because you left after the fact. Lumira needed you. Seir needed you.
They're adults. They don't need me. I didn't do anything for them.
You... And Naeem closes the distance between the two of you, and for a second it feels like it will actually come to blows. And you see the hems of his robes rising like he's in water, and you hear the rustling of sutra paper and the crackling of spiritual energy around him. His amber eyes flicker for a second to bright gold. You, I could tell, you fancied yourself her father. Not just her father. That's what Lumira needed from you, too. I entrusted her to you. She needed you. I thought I could...
They're not my kids.
I thought you would...
I only had one daughter. You know what happened. How dare you?
How dare I? Poster boy of LSSG. The mentor, the hero that everyone can look up to, that everyone can count on to be there for them when they need them. You don't get to claim that title and then say, they're not my fucking kids. You want to be the poster boy, then show up. Because you know what being a real hero is, Xainan Esh. It's not just showing up when it's convenient for you, when it doesn't hurt, when it's easy. It's showing up even when you don't want to, when they need you. Even when you think you can't.
You changing strike teams again? You gonna go save Wuyin with that big speech? I'm not a hero, I just show up and do my job.
That's not being an agent of the Syndicate, Xainan. That's being a fucking clock puncher. If you want to just show up and do your job, quit the Syndicate. Go somewhere else. Farm somewhere. When you signed up to be here, when you signed up to mean something to people, when you signed up to show up, You have to.
This hollow man is the one that signed up, so that's what you get. You always think that there's something in me that ain't there.
Yeah, maybe that's the issue, Xainan. Maybe I keep hoping that you'll be someone that I know is in there, but maybe you're the one who killed him, Xainan. Not Oblivion. Not the dust. You.
We don't serve hope here. I've always been this dead man. I'll be seeing you, Agent. And Xainan just turns to start walking away.
And as you bend around the corner and leave the argument, electricity, the rage, the anger, all of that crackling between you starting to fizzle and die down, and you find yourself in a smaller alley, a smaller corridor, one more abandoned, more alone. What comes over you? What emotion washes over you as you have a moment of being by yourself?
There's this hollowness, like he's in a room too big, in a space that he doesn't fit in clothes that are too large every time he wakes up in that bed, and it's just him, and all he can feel is that hollowness, like a cavern that goes straight to the core of a world. And the little bit of hope that he wanted to just go swimming in those robes and feel Naeem's warm body against his. That also is hollow, and he steels himself and walks back to his very sparse quarters where there is still just a half-empty bed.
And as you close the door behind yourself into your abode, you see on your side of the bed, on the pillow, that cherry blossom. Lumira. 3 days, 2 nights, and 15 hours after your fateful summons, where do we find you?
Lumira is sitting cross-legged in a chair at the archives. Her boots are off over to the side, and there is... It would almost be comical, the size of the coffee that's sitting next to her right now. It is so massive. Once again, it's been 24, 48, 72 hours since she's last slept. She's not 100% sure, but she once again has her nose in a book. However, she's dozing like a toddler that can barely keep their head up at dinner. And she'll read some pages and flip and take notes before her hand writing. Both hands she's taking notes with, both going in opposite directions. They start to drag as she dozes and pops her head back up again, shaking her head and gulping another massive sip before going directly back into her books again.
Quick above the table question. Did you say Lumira was at home or in the library?
Library.
Okay, cool. As your head feels so heavy and starts to hang on the hinge that is your neck, you hear a voice from behind you. A familiar, quirking, slightly nasally, deeply academic voice. Lumira?
Elspeth.
And as you turn and look up, you see a harpy-like person, rather like a great horned owl, with light tanned skin and brown feathers framing a bookish face, these arms, as well as shoulders and their entire lower body. And she walks on these taloned feet that had approached you rather silently over the wood floors of the library. And these big golden glasses are on an intricate chain that are currently perched atop her nose. And she's holding a stack of books. You know, I made a bet with myself, asking how long it would take for you to return to the archives. I'm sad to say I lost. I thought you'd be here in under a month.
I've had other things.
Right, yes, well, I imagine so. This is for you. And she sets it down with a kind of like almost annoyedness, but it's a shot of espresso.
Lumira.
If you want to get through those books, you're going to need something stronger than just coffee.
Lumira downs it whole, almost as if she was a sorority girl in college. Just throws it back and slams it on the table, goes directly back to her studies. Were you able to find anything?
And Elspeth flicks some pair of feathered hands, and the books that she's holding start to levitate, surrounded by brown magic, and start to like sort themselves into the stacks around her. And as she like flourishes her fingers and directs them to where they need to go, she says, "Well, that depends on what you're asking about. If you're asking for me to look up about callings and whatnot, I have a plethora of magical arts I could direct you to, but if you're looking for the, let's say, arts of a forbidden nature, you know the nature of our arrangement, Lumira, you're gonna have to give a little to get a little, or do you have a third inquiry in mind?"
Lumira looks like she's biting back the snarkiest of snapbacks. Her fingers are tapping rhythmically on the table as her patience is getting tested and tested and tested. Well, as I told you before, she speaks through clenched teeth, keeping the same airs, but there is bite in her tone. Venom, almost. Things have not been exactly the way they need to be in order for me to get adequate information. Any would be helpful. Additionally, please.
Well, yes, of course, I am sympathetic. And she says that very reluctantly, but it does seem genuine, to what has transpired with you and your strike team. But you know, Lumira, you bite any harder at me, and I might just start to enjoy it.
Elspeth.
When it comes to the C word, and not the 4-letter one that I know you want to call me sometimes in your head. You know, the one with
Like right now.
9 letters. What was that?
Go on.
Mm-hmm. The 9-letter C word. Connie is hoping I really got it right because it'd be embarrassing if I didn't. I think I did. Like I said, our arrangement does still stand. But if there's anything else that perhaps I could look up for you, Maybe I could help. I'm feeling a little generous.
Actually, Elspeth, there is something I think maybe you could help me with.
Oh, please. I'm enraptured. Tell me.
I've been looking for a world, my home, but I can't seem to find it anywhere. I've looked at atlases going as far back as 300-400 years and have found nothing.
300-400 years? That's child's play, Lumira. Don't tell me you found out more about the world that you're... Well, I thought it was taken by oblivion.
And the word, just the name Oblivion, it's like pouring a bucket of ice water over her head. And she goes rigid for a minute. The ink pen that she has in her hand snaps in half, spilling ink onto the table and pooling out between her hands with inky blackness.
Ah, careful! That
Shakes it
table
off.
is 9,000 years old! And Elspeth whisks a feathered finger, and the ink levitates, again ensconced in brown magic, off of the table and starts to suture itself back into your pen.
One of these days you're going to let my pen snap in half instead of breaking it.
Well, you can snap it all you want, just not over the table, please.
Lumièra flicks it back down to the table and it clatters across. Can you help me or not? I understand that it was taken by oblivion.
The 8-letter
Oblivion.
O word. Yes.
But there's got to be something, right? Like,
Well,
it can just be
okay.
gone.
Okay, fine. Fine. Do you have anything that I could look up? Like a name or something?
There's this body of water. I keep seeing it and feeling myself in it.
You want me to look up every
Shimmers.
single body of water that's ever existed in the history of the journey?
Let me describe it, please.
Okay, what's so special about this body of water? Is it a pond, a lake, an estuary, a river, a sea, an ocean?
It's something similar to a small lake surrounded by beautiful trees and nature, but it also, when you get into it and you move, it shimmers, it glows, you glow when you move in it. Have you ever heard of anything like that before?
A magical body of water in a forest somewhere. Yes, I think
Never
I've
mind.
heard of many things like it. No, Lumira, Can you give me anything more specific than that? Something
I'm giving you
concrete.
all that I have, Elspeth. That's it.
Anything in way of a title. A title for this pool of water. A name, any sort of name, any word that you might associate with it.
The Ionian Grove?
Ionian Grove. Okay. And Elspeth calls up her oracle, which whisks into existence and says, Elspeth Sanoon, awaiting your directions. Yes, okay. And she starts pulling beads of light outward from the oracle to form inputs that you can't really parse. It's also flipped and reversed in her direction. And then she pulls all these beads of light out and then lets go of them, and they slingshot back into the oracle like she's released tension. The oracle starts swirling, and then we see these images start lifting off of it, surrounded with strings of words. No, that's not right. This isn't right. Not here. I'm not actually getting too much for Ionian Grove. There's a redacted entry here. Oh, but it's really brief, and even I don't have the clearance for that. You'd have to be a hand of fate to access that. But other than that, nothing. And, Lumira, I'm really putting myself out on a limb here. Owl pun, okay? So, if you really want me to keep digging into this grove of yours, unless you come up with, anything more concrete, I really can't help you.
Well, fine. I will continue to do more digging. As I get information, I will pass it along as necessary, along with the information that our prior arrangement allotted.
Well, yes, of course. But regarding the prior arrangement, I am quite impatient for more progress on that front. Let's just say that my people are very invested in its progress.
I have not seen them.
And
For
you
months.
don't have to. Oh,
Excuse me.
Oh, I thought you were talking about my people when you said them. I understand now you're talking about your strike team with whom you have had a little bit of a falling out, given the death of the Chosen One and all.
Lumira kisses
that is
her
quite
teeth
unfortunate.
loudly.
Well, I hope for your sake that you're able to make more progress on this if you want to learn more about. And she kind of gestures at the chronology book strapped to your hip. That.
Lovely. Thank you for all your help.
Well, I think I can help with that. And stepping out of the shadows of the archives and into a slanted pillar of light pouring in through a gap in the curtains is the person you've been waiting for, Lumira, ever since you reached out to her. Cove. And Elspeth snaps her bright eyes over at Cove and clacks her teeth together. Well. The plot thickens.
Elspeth, can we have a moment of privacy, please?
Oh, ew. Okay, just do it in that corner. And she turns and exits with a new stack of books.
Lumira turns to Cove with an indifferent look on her face, as if he would be so lucky.
And on Cove's cold smile, coming across her beautiful face, we pull to black. Seir. 5 nights, 5 days, 4 nights, and 8 hours after your fateful summons, where do we find you?
I'm in the training hall, and Seir is dressed in a sleeveless muscle tank, a pair of skinny track pants, and is currently doing warm-ups in front of a small obstacle course. It's not one to be run lengthwise. It is an area in which there's kind of like a thing for you to hop over while at the same time punching blows. It's meant to train you in dexterity and dodging, taking hits while still maintaining focus on your target. And Seir is now leaning downwards, stretching his legs. It's been a while since he's stepped foot in the training hall. It's been a while since he has trained. His muscles feel strange and foreign to him, but he focuses nonetheless and tries to pull himself together. Exhaling and stretching.
As you warm up and prepare to run this circuit, right, feeling the tightness in your legs that haven't really been stretched in 2 months, trying to get your muscles to adjust to the idea of putting them in action again, you hear the door slide open and someone enter, which isn't unusual. This is an open training space. It's a rather intimate one, but it is still allowed for other trans agents to enter and utilize the facilities. Do you look up?
Seir does not look up. Seir is focused. Since putting on this face, since being more outgoing in the Syndicate, he's been attracting more attention. And this is meant to be his space. He's meant to be informed for when Nova inevitably goes on our next mission. Fate was clear. My creator was clear. We must succeed. We must be hope. And then there's oblivion. I can't let that happen again.
Seir, how do you run this circuit?
After hopping in place a couple of times to feel his legs stretch out, he begins to step forward towards the platform, and he gestures towards the Oracle. Training Oracle, circuit start.
Circuit start in 3, 2, 1. There's a flash of light.
And as soon as the flash of light goes, Seir holds out his fist and makes one strike against the dummy, skips and hops in place again, dodges, hits an uppercut, dodges, skips, and tries again and again and again.
You're using your bare fists. You're fighting unarmed.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. This circuit takes 3 minutes, and it's just like automatons coming at you from every direction in the sand pit, right? Testing your instincts, your reflexes, your ability to be offensive and defensive at the same time, right? So in what way are you embodying yourself and fighting back against these dummies?
Agile, light on my feet, like a dance, just like she would. In an arena surrounded by all enemies, she would dance, she would weave and bob and then find her opportunity. That's what I'll do as well. I weave and bob, and Seir makes a strike, one to the side of the torso of one automaton, dodges another and attempts another uppercut, and then attempts a strike of 2 to 3 strikes and backs off. But in the midst of doing all of that, his strikes aren't, well, they're not like Seir's strikes. Seir's punches are wreathed in destruction and power. He is trained by the Huntress to be efficient and brutal. There's no brutality here. And my god, is it affecting his efficiency?
Yes, it's very flashy. You're trying to be graceful and elegant, showy and flashy, which are not exactly adjectives you would use to describe how you usually like to handle obstacles. So a couple of the dummies get a few punches in, you stagger a little, you lose your balance a few times, but you're always able to get back onto the balls with your feet, lightly, trying to imitate the way you remember your sister move. And then all too soon, and then all too late, you hear the beep from the Oracle as the final minute clocks in, and the last remaining dummies kind of lower their robotic arms and step back into the line. Not bad. Not bad. And you realize that the person who entered has been standing just outside of your peripheral vision, watching you this entire time. And now she steps forward. And you see Diego del Sol of the Wild Hunt. She is a broad-chested man today, with warm brown skin and this long, textured, curly hair. And just like the last time you saw him, his form is crisscrossed with more scars than you can count. And he's unarmed.
Above the table question, what title would Diego be comfortable with? Would Sir do? Ma'am?
Sir or ma'am work, interchangeably.
Okay. Seir, as he was about to lean down and look up at the statistics, the scoreline of what the Oracle is meant to tell him on his training wheel today, he lifts up a towel and dabs his face and realizes who's speaking to him. And he kind of startled, turns around like a deer in headlights. Diego, sir, ma'am, forgive me, I did not realize you were here. I would have greeted you sooner.
Don't worry about all that. I was enjoying myself watching you. You've got spark,
Thank
kid.
you. Thank you. I'm running my circuits for today. Yes.
You do realize you're swimming upstream, though, right? And you're favoring your right side a little too much.
My right side, and he takes a look and he realizes that he is favoring his right side, and he continues to dab his face. Their eyes kind of like blink in understanding, those bright blue eyes, and he says, yes, it's something I'm working on to accommodate for the agile movements to dodge. I've been favoring that side in order to hit the strikes, and thank you for your insight. It is so appreciated.
Yeah, of course. But that's what I mean by swimming upstream. You know what? It's easier to just show instead of tell. And Diego hops into the sand pit, and the last of the dummies move all the way to like the ends to allow for person versus person sparring. You don't mind, do you?
No. It would be my honor. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Oracle, set a timer for 3 minutes. Timer for 3 minutes. All right. Yeah, let's do this unarmed, but I hope you don't mind if I exercise my right to bear arms. And as they flourish their left arm and their right arm, fur ripples up their fists all the way up to their elbows and their shoulders on either side of their body until literal bear arms appear on her form.
That's so cool. Seir's bright eyes sparkle seeing this. A childhood dream made reality to spar and train with a member of the Wild Hunt, with Diego del Sol, a person he had admired all their life. And Seir smirks, and before retorting something that he would naturally say, he bites the word back, favoring the bright, playful tone that escapes his lips, a smile not his own. Bare arms, good one. All right, I'm ready for you.
All right, come at me.
And I will Seir will attempt to, once again, in true Sing fashion, do a fainting strike. So instead of taking the hit, instead of being front and center, he will jump upwards for a haymaker, a strike where he raises his fist upwards and slam down. He is going to attempt to pirouette away and try and slam with the back of his fist towards Diego's arm or lower rib, whichever shows off an opening.
Why don't you roll me 2d6 to see just how well you do, generally speaking? No modifiers.
Mm-hmm. No modifiers? Fantastic. Here's
I'll do the same for Diego.
That's a 4 to 3. That's a
What's
7.
that, a 7? Okay.
That's a 7. Wow.
All right. If we add 10 to mine, that's a 16. So, as you come down with the pirouette against Diego, even though she's so big, she moves quickly, rapidly, efficiently. Not a single movement, not a single action, not a single breath is wasted. Every iota of energy spent goes somewhere directly and viciously. The pirouette comes in and Diego isn't even there anymore. And before you know it, you're on the ground, pinned, with the bare arms. All right, again. As she springs back up and is light on her feet.
Yes, again.
And you do it again. And again. And again, and again, and again. And before the 3 minutes are up, you have been flipped onto the floor eating sand no fewer than 21 times.
Again.
3 minutes are up. I think we're good for now, little one.
Seir is like ass on the ground, like sand all over his uniform, sand in his hair, and in the bits of stubble that has grown on his face. And he lifts himself up and says, "Oh, I couldn't even land a hit on you."
Diego hasn't broken a sweat at all. She shakes out both of her arms and the fur ripples back into skin and is fully smooth now.
It's clear I have a lot to learn.
You do. I mean, we all have a lot to learn, to be fair. But you know what your issue is, really, during those 3 minutes? You're a little too tunnel visioned. Know what I mean?
Sir?
You're so focused on doing this one thing, this one way, right, completely, 100%. You don't see. You know what I mean?
And Seir really thinks, and he realizes that on the surface level, yeah, he focuses really hard on every strike that he does. He always has to. I mean, this pirouetting and agility doesn't come naturally to him, and he furrows his brow and bites his lower lip, and he realizes he hasn't taken stock of the room like he usually would. It's an untrained muscle. And as he bites his lip and looks up at Diego and her mountainous presence, he murmurs, I suppose that's true. It's been really hard to stay agile and keep an eye of the room. What may I borrow from your wisdom, Diego?
Don't say wisdom, makes me feel old. Say knowledge.
Knowledge, then. He laughs, a laugh not his own, a smile not his own.
Yeah, well, speaking of borrowed knowledge, listen, come here, sit. And Diego pats a bench, sits down on it, and gestures for you to also join her.
Seir goes over and obediently sits by her. And as he does so, he does have his crescent blades on him. He's, for some reason, not chosen to wield them today, but he adjusts them slightly and sits down and looks expectantly over at Diego.
Question for you, Seir. What do you think Artemis's lesson was when he sparred with us?
The other day. To persist, to pursue, and to be focused on the task, regardless of what has been thrown your way, whatever barriers, whatever setbacks. To be dogged in your devotion, in your determination for the goal.
The goal. And what is the goal, Seir? What's the end game of this? What do you want?
For that day, I believe it was to prove myself an agent and win the moon. I mean, I understand that the moon necklace was, and he plays with it, the moon necklace around his neck. It is a very, very practical, simple silver crescent moon necklace that's hammered. And he plays around with it in his finger. I understand that the crescent moon was an object to illustrate the fact that I needed to prove my worth in the moment after what I had done.
Prove your worth. Yeah, I think we would both be remiss if what we got out of this was Artemis wanted you to win a shiny little trinket. That's very much not Artemis. It's not me.
No,
I don't think it's
not.
you. But I'm not too sure, Seir. Is that what you want? Shiny trinkets? Trophies? Victory?
Sir? And Seir's taken aback. He feels like an arrow has knocked itself on his back. He can't explain it. I mean, no, victory is surely a result of training, of dedication, of honing one's craft. surely that is part of it. I'm not here for the trinkets, ma'am, but victory... I don't understand.
It feels counterintuitive to say this, but victory isn't always a win condition, Seir. You know, if you want to bask in glory and validation, worship and devotion, everyone kissing your feet, you know, go run circuits with Wuyan. If you want to bask in your own wretchedness, your own monstrosity, go play games with Lucy. But if you want to learn balance, if you want to learn what it means to be mortal, you follow Artemis into the woods. And you know, even Artemis, the great huntress, guess what? Sometimes she returns from hunts empty-handed. And she knows that's for the best. Because when you've got your weapon fixed on that golden stag you've been hunting for days and days through the woods, sometimes you lower it because you realize he's a mother.
And Seir falters for a moment. Is this not the path? But that's all he's been reminded of, is how he fails and is defeated and isn't good enough for the trainings and not making progress. Is victory not a measure of progress? And I think that escapes his lips as he looks over at Diego and says, victory not the measure of progress? And I think the mask falls. The singness falters, the smile disappears from his lips. And Seir is back for a moment. All my life, sir, I've been told that I'm not measuring up, and the metric upon which is that. How else do I get better? How else do I prove myself, prove my worth, that I'm a hunter too? A hero.
I think that's
and
the
a
flaw in
hunter.
your thinking. I think what you just said is the issue, Seir. How can I prove myself? How can I be enough? You know, a hero's answer would be to return from the hunt every time with carcasses piled on your shoulders all the way up to the heavens, heedless of the fact that you've just bled the forest dry. But hunters, we adapt. We balance. And we understand that black and white thinking can only get us so far. There's no one right answer to every single question that's ever been asked. And the right answer is going to be different for each person. You know? Artemis doesn't teach us all the same way. Different lessons for different people. Different ways of talking to different people can get through to them. Know what I mean? And, you know, speaking of Artemis, do you really think she would have been disappointed in you if you failed?
And Seir, hearing all of Diego's words, his mind flits between all of these thoughts. The distinction between hero and hunter. I thought to be good was to be a hero. To be a good hunter is to be a good hero. To be a good hero is to be a good hunter. That they are synonymous, equal. Not distinct in this way. And Seir bites his lip and casts his gaze downwards. The same way when he gets a talking to from Artemis. And for a moment, his fingers drag across the leather hilt of the crescent blades. And he murmurs out, I guess part of me thought they would be. That it was my shot to be real.
You know what would have happened if you failed? Is you, as punishment, would have had to train with us over and over and over and over again. You'd have to dedicate multiple days of the week sparring with the wild hunt, getting one-on-one lessons from each of us. That was the lesson. Failure. I think you were so focused on winning, victory, being a hero as being the best thing that could ever happen to you, that could ever happen to anyone, that could have ever happened to your sister. That maybe you didn't see that failure would have been the thing to help you grow. You know, Artemis and me would have been happier if you failed as yourself, rather than succeeding as someone else.
Shot right through the heart. Like a golden stag in the hunt. Seir's whole chest and body crumples. How blatantly he is seen under the eyes of the wild hunt. What a boon he has wasted to train with the wild hunt. Something inside him sings. His bright blue eyes of boyishness that has long disappeared after his sister's death returns a little glimmer. Then he realizes that it's out of his hands, that is not the reality of what came to pass. And he's speechless, still unable to reconcile the fact of who he is. I'm gonna roll a die to see if he says this, actually. Okay. My fail is myself. Myself. He says it like a question, as if interrogating himself, but unable to. Speaking a question to a stranger that won't answer.
I get that it's hard, kid. I really do. You know, I've been there before. I see myself in you. That's why I'm here. It's not because Artemis asked me. No, gods, no, she didn't ask me. I'm here because I want to be here. I'm here because I see in you a young, angry kid with something to prove, taking it out on people around them.
And what did you do, sir? What was the path you took?
Well, I got my ass kicked a few times. More than a few times. Quite a lot, actually.
I'm familiar with that.
And then I realized, you know, the hardest thing to realize, because we never want to realize this about ourselves. It's really fucking hard. I realized that I was projecting my own bullshit onto everyone else around me. You know, I walked around with a chip on my shoulder. I thought that everyone could see the chip. Everyone, all they could ever see was the chip. Right? Thinking, they hate me because of this. They don't like me because of that. You know? And sure, yeah. Maybe some of that was warranted. Because I had hurt people. Had lashed out. Had done things I'm not proud of. But I was doing myself a massive disservice by assuming that everyone I crossed paths with hated me. By thinking that my strike team hated me. By thinking that Artemis hated me. That the people I loved hated me. And then one day, after a lot of training, a lot of late night discussions, a lot of growth, you know, there came a realization that, damn, Diego, how could I possibly think that these people who love me so much could possibly ever consider me worthy of their hatred, worthy of their disgust, of their fear? That I was disrespecting them by putting my own bullshit on them. That I wasn't giving them the opportunity to be fully realized people.
The truth resonates for a moment as Seir reminisces of every hidden whisper, every glance, every dark eye sent his way. I suppose there was a point where every gaze turned into that. But just as he's at that threshold of that understanding of love, what is it like to be loved? He remembers her. Unconditional love incarnate. Bright, billowing gaze. The wind beneath him. His rock. His better half. And while he hears Diego's words, there's a hesitance. There's a gorge in his heart where the lance of fire ripped in and took something of his and never left anything back. Love. And he sits there silently, kind of twiddling his thumbs, touching onto that crescent blade. I see. I understand. It's something I must work on, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. You know, and Diego stands up, stretches out their hamstrings, leans forward, rolls her shoulders. It's never too late to start failing, Seir. Don't be scared of it. It's how you grow. It's how you learn. One of the only ways, really. It's never too late to walk into the woods and just be.
Oh, and he realizes that she has stood up and stands up at attention and dusts off the sand off of his uniform. I understand. I will find a way. Half of her
Good.
smile, half of his, but rattled and heard.
Find a way, find a way. And Diego starts pacing back toward the doors, like turning her back on you and like waving in farewell. Find a way. You know, the only way out is through. And don't think you're too good for us just because you nabbed that pendant. She turns around with a roguish smile and a wink. Artemis told us to go easy on you. Peace. And Diego walks out of the
Sir.
room. The doors close behind her.
Above the table check-in. How's everyone doing? I went in a direction. How are we doing, folks?
So good. I was chewing
We're
that
all
shit
going in
up. Thank you for
directions.
checking in.
Yes. Okay. Love you all.
Excellent.
Murder us.
Yes. All right. Now time for the TPK.
Yeah.
7 days, 6 nights, and 19 hours after your strike team's fateful summons, we find the three of you in a special training chamber used by the Twilight Guard. Xainan, you learned of this location from Kenzo, who learned of it from Corey, with whom he plays Mahjong every Thursday night. It's not the only training chamber used by the Twilight Guard, of course, but it's one of them, which is a better lead than any other you've ever gotten. You, Lumira, and Seir stride through a pair of glass sliding doors to find yourselves in a divine arena. Pillars of golden marble and enchanted wood spiral toward a vaulted ceiling, dangling with sprites, lanterns, stars. A perfectly manicured field of grass sprawls before you, currently dominated by the Twilight Guard. First, all of you see Rishi, Rishi is a short, fat person twirling gracefully across the arena. Their robes flow like waves of rainbow water. His dark brown skin is bright with sweat, but his colorful lipstick is immaculately in place alongside a well-manicured beard. A deck of bladed cards floats around Rishi's body. She flings each one like a dart at the veritable army of huge automatons currently serving as training dummies. And one of the cards lodges in a blank face, the other an arm, the third a chest, and after a brief delay, there's a poof, 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 huge triad of explosions, and hunks of steel go flying. And then there's a crack of thunder, a peal of lightning, and surging forward, the wheels on his copper-wired chair sparking with storm magic, is Sojin. Their light green skin is slick with rain and sweat, and a mop of thick, curly black hair rests atop narrowed, squinted eyes, and a pair of bright white tusks protrude from his lower lips. He power slides on the chair, kicking up a wall of pure concentrated lightning, and slicing downward through the electricity, descending like an avenging angel out of heaven, is Hanifa. Her shoulders are broad, her skin is warm and brown, just like her eyes, and a white silk hijab is curved around her head. She swings a greatsword in a single hand, the blade smashing down onto the earth like the hammer of a god. And these training dummies split open down the middle, bisected. And then, swinging her war scythe in a sweeping circle around her, Mnemosyne fells the few constructs that remain in the center of the arena. She's an older black woman in her mid-60s or so, with dark brown skin and a perfectly shaved head. These scars adorn her body with great pride. She wears practical leather armor, a fur-lined long white cape, and intricate golden makeup. As the last of the dummies falls to the ground, Mnemosyne rises to her full 6 feet, observing the rest of her team as they gather by the sidelines to rest and compare notes. And then Mnemosyne's stately, regal gaze falls on the 3 of you. Her eyebrows rise a fraction of an inch, and then they settle back down over that unreadable face. Mnemosyne approaches your group, leaving the rest of the Twilight Guard to their own devices behind her. She greets your party at the entrance to this arena. Strike Team Nova. To what do I owe the pleasure?
I was just following up on some information I received on our first Mayday mission. And Xainan, having inclined his hat, locks eyes with Mnemosyne with an intensity, knowing that there's a decent chance that she knows what mission he is talking about.
You're referring to the Wild Sea.
Yes, ma'am.
What of it would you like to know?
Well, I don't expect you to reveal anything to us outside of what you can speak on. I saw some evidence of the Twilight Guard's presence on that plane before, and I was just trying to finish my mission report, get all my details straight.
Of course, the Twilight Guard go to many planes in service of Fate's will. Was there anything in particular you wish to have my eye over?
I saw a glimpse of a moment at a time. You, Quarry, a few others long gone. On that world.
Yes. I remember that mission. It was one of the first times I ever saw a realm so deep in its own oblivion.
An oblivion of iron, of industry, correct?
Yes. Of fire and death. The plane was not known to us as the Wild Sea at the time. It was known to us as Oregonus.
At the word Oregonus, Xainan grits his teeth a little.
Seir does as well. In fact, he winces.
Lumira is utterly indifferent.
Oregonus died the day that you planted that seed, theoretically. And you would name it Oblivion.
Nothing else destroys and devastates. We have seen much evidence of oblivion across planes. It looks like many different things. In the case of Oregonus, it looked like a fire-wreathed dragon with a spine of metal skyscrapers and rivers of oil in place of water.
We met him.
So I've heard.
In your mission, you weren't sent to destroy the great oil serpent. You planted a tree.
So we did?
And that seed, that was fate.
It was our directive from fate to help a better world bloom by planting the seed of the Wild Sea. And bloom it did, from the ashes of the old.
And that seed, that was from here, from the Syndicate.
It was in our inventory when we needed it.
I see. And all went to plan, as with all Twilight Guard missions, correct?
We succeeded that mission.
Seir kind of looks
No.
at Xainan in this moment. He's brought here, yes, and under the assumption that we were just gathering information for all of our reports, final filing, we were given a break from paperwork. But he's curious as to Xainan's questions, and he kind of tilts his head and is no longer looking at Nemosini and more looking at Xainan. Is everything alright, Xainan?
Sarah, you've seen Xainan get a thought and not be able to let it go, like almost like a fish hook is in him and dragging him along. And there is a seed of something inside of him, longing to find sunlight, to find purchase. And he is chasing down a specific thread. An idea, something shaped in salt in the depths of the Wild Sea, a torn piece of fabric framed in amber. And the thing that he hasn't said to any of Nova, that he won't say to Nemosini, he wants to be sure of something, in this case. Specifically, oblivion, 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 and before, when he would have fury behind the word, it is neutral. And he very factually continues with Nemosini. That seed, did you watch it grow? The speed.
It was not part of our directive to stay behind and witness what would happen. We did receive a mission report that green bloomed, that the color of that plane's soul turned from red to emerald. Something is troubling you, young gun. What is it? You may speak freely.
The bleed of what a calamity means was hard to tell there. The green, the emerald, the vibrant soul of the wild sea. It bloomed in 3 days. I've just had a hard time reconciling exactly where such destruction came from. But if it was fate, then I will ensure that I record it correctly.
Xainan and Esh. I remember my first mission at the Syndicate. I'm not sure what I wanted. I don't know if I even knew. Something about helping. Something about healing. I remember feeling scared, angry, unsure about not being able to bandage every wound, save every life we came across. And I have learned over many decades that fate's duty, fate's power, lies not in being able to save every single person that has ever existed in the journey. Yes, I believe this is even beyond her. But rather, to shift the tides of reality into a better direction overall. And the brass tacks of that shifting, she entrusts to Trans. Our responsibility is sacred. It is complicated. It comes with pain. But it also comes with great joy. We do what we can. Change, lasting change, is never bloodless. Xainan and Esh.
A fury rises inside of him. Every time she brings up blood and loss, he sees pink eyes and fire. He sees dust. He sees every face he's ever had to look at LSSG saying that they lost everything. And that question. The promise that he made to fate herself. That he trusts, so he will trust, and that question is smothered as hard as he can. That image of oblivion gently guiding Sing to beyond. Crushed because he trusts in her will. And he nods. Yeah, these early missions. New, fresh, Mayday missions. It's different, you know. It's unsettling.
That they are. That they are. You must understand that the world we went to, Aregnis, it was dying. And there were people caught in the death throes, stuck in its teeth. I did read the report about the wild sea blooming in 3 days, about the violence of it, the catastrophe, the pain, the blood that accompanied the growth of new wood. But like I said, anything worth fighting for must be paid for.
The slaying of Oblivion's spawn cannot be bloodless. Of course.
Precisely.
Lumira looks over at Xainan just barely a hint of irritation on her face. Demosthenes, I apologize. Thank you for your time. We won't hold you back any longer. And Lumira's eyes cut towards Xainan and Seir, but linger a bit longer on Xainan.
Much appreciated, Agent Lumira, Agent Seir. I
Yeah.
appreciate someone who does their due diligence when filling out reports. But don't forget why we are all here. It is to trust in fate's will, and it is to carry out the sacred responsibilities to which she has entrusted us.
Of
We
course.
all believe in a better multiverse, a more beautiful journey.
Yes, ma'am.
Trust in her will.
In her
Trust
will,
in
we
her will.
trust.
Trust in her will.
Very well. I must return to my strike team. We're going to run another round of sparring.
We'll leave you to it.
As
Happy
you were.
training.
And Demosthenes gives a brief, curt, efficient nod. That reminds the three of you just a smidge of Artemis. And she turns back and strides toward the Twilight Guard.
Lumira stops directly in Xainan's walkway. Her entire
What?
body busting up against his. I'm not exactly sure what you think you are doing, Agent Esh.
What was that about, Xainan?
I have
Lumira
2
puts her
months of
finger up
paperwork.
towards Seir.
I have 2 months of paperwork to catch up on. He is full of shit, and it is not hard
And-
to see.
Whose fault is that? I understand we are all going through something, Xainan, but picking shit with the Twilight Guard right now, after we just spoke to Fate, are you serious?
Twilight Guard. If they really wanted my respect, they'd have done more. And he goes to walk forward.
Come on. Come on, we're about to go on our first mission. Lumira,
I'll be in my room.
Lumira.
Call me on the Oracle if you need me and nothing else, nothing more. Do I hear it from either of you? Yes. There is no no. You don't have an option.
Yes, ma'am.
Seir?
Claire just stares at Lumira, sighs, and a smile not his own appears on his face. Of course. Whatever you need.
Lumira, for a second, sees pink eyes and white hair and blinks. Good. And she will turn sharply on her heel and leave.
Xainan glances to Seir. He can feel the barbs of what he deserved from Lumira. And somehow Seir is just standing here. This young person who was so full of anger and frustration and confusion on the wild sea to the point where he was ready to fight all of us.
Did you get what you need answered? From the Twilight Guard. I mean, I didn't understand the questions myself, but I'm sure there was a reason why you asked them and had this meeting. You always have a reason. Right? Xainan?
Yeah, I just didn't want to disappoint Artemis, you know.
Yeah.
Get it all right.
Yeah, I get that. And about Lumièra, look, it's
No, she's right.
we gotta stick together. We've only got the three of us, right? Strike Team Nova.
Yeah. I'm gonna go get my gear ready.
All right,
Train up a little.
right. I'll see you at Artemis's office. First thing.
Ooh. Only hours left.
Only hours left. Take care, Xainan.
He almost winces at that. You take care. And he just starts walking.
And Seir lingers there for a moment. Exhales as he feels everything crumble in his palms, and he grabs fistfuls of his hair and his face, feeling the rough stubble beneath. This is going to be a very long mission, and he must keep it together.
8 days, 7 nights, and 1 minute exactly after your strike team's fateful summons, the Prime Oracle receives a message. Its impossible colors swirl. They pulse. They dance. Numbers shift within sounds, shift above sense, below sight, inside touch. The distress call is parsed, felt, known. The location gleams in the heart of the Oracle Prime, and the plane of existence that shall be your next proving ground shimmers into clarity. The City of Heaven. And on that, we're going to end the session. So thank you all so much for tuning in to the Terrible Twos, the terrible second arc, the terrible second episode of the second arc. It's gonna keep going like this, baby! I have been your game master and creative producer, Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. You can find me across the internet at ByConnieChang. That's ByConnieChang. If you're on Twitch, use !Transplanar to learn more about our channel. And if you're on TikTok, then go over to my profile. Click it now, and then click on the link in my profile to learn about this show. You can watch the VODs. It's a fully edited podcast format. And we would love to have you join our Discord server as well as a Transplanar. And with that, I'm going to pass along introductions over to our terrible Seir. Val.
Hi, I'm Valiant Dorian. I use he, him, his pronouns. You can find me all around the internet at Valiant Dorian or also Spirit Bear. Please enjoy that lovely treasure I just set you on. And tonight I had the distinct pleasure of playing Sing the Chosen One. Seir, the misbeloved brother of the Chosen One.
You
and he uses
Connie
he,
can
they
go to
pronouns.
hell. I hate you both so much.
I'm gonna fight you. Coming through this computer.
And only love to the rest of my castmates. I'm gonna pass it over to Kai.
Oh, this is cursed. I've been wretched, aka Xainan Esh. I'm Kai. You can find me on everywhere as Estelle of Imladris, and I will continue to commit crimes you cannot stop me as Mr. Xainan Esh very soon back here. But in the meantime, Sam, will you boss lady us out of this situation?
So bold of you to assume that Lumira would not be the one to stop your bullshit, Xainan Esh. Hi, I'm Sam Star. I played Lumira, who's tired, who's sick of the bullshit, and just wants to get the fuck on with her mission, and everyone is irritating. Find me across the internet at Lust for Life. That's LUSTTFORLIFEEX, where my perfect Blorbo continues to be perfect and does absolutely nothing wrong. Perfect God Princess. What's up, boss?
It's me, the boss. We love God's favorite princess, who's never done anything wrong ever in her life. No one's ever done anything wrong ever in their life in our show. So tune in next Saturday, January 20th at 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, right here on TikTok or Twitch or YouTube, to catch the next installment of this. We're going to the city of heaven, everyone. We're going to the city of heaven. I'm so excited for that. It's going to be an excellent time. In the meantime, follow Transplanar RPG on Twitter, YouTube, basically everywhere but TikTok, to stay tuned to what we're doing and what's up. And follow me on TikTok at ByConnieShang. And with that, we're going to see you next week at 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, January 20th. Bisho. Flash our Patreon. You'll get a mission debrief.